Born in 1962 in Paris, France, Fabienne Verdier is a French painter who explores the dynamics behind various natural forces through a blend of techniques borrowed from her education in both Western and Eastern art. A graduate of the École des Beaux-Arts de Toulouse in 1983, Fabienne Verdier is a fascinating personality, a true contrarian whose quest for forbidden knowledge is insatiable. After learning the ins and outs of traditional Western art education, Verdier felt like there had to be something more in the world for her to learn. Being a truly gifted person, it felt to her as the knowledge of Western art alone was not enough for her to truly develop a meaningful art practice. This is what led, after having graduated, to China. With a grant from the cultural body of Toulouse, she was able to go to Chongqing to study at the Sichuan Fine Arts Institute. What was supposed to be a short study turned into a decade-long stay that saw Fabienne Verdier get completely immersed in Chinese Expressionism and calligraphy. And while Fabienne Verdier met a lot of different masters during her Chinese journey, Huan Wang was the most important. He beautifully says that Chinese calligraphy is in the domain of the abstract, but that the word abstract has a different conception in China than it does in the West. It refers to the act of listening to nature. Nature is incarnated through strokes, dots, and shapes that make up Chinese calligraphy. The teaching ways of this master saw a lot of time pass before Verdier could even start to pick up a brush. Her master explained it simply. "You are not ready," he said. Fabienne Verdier would go on study trips in the mountains and would get mocked by her masters for pulling out a notebook and starting to draw. These mockeries were hiding a life-altering lesson. The masters said that there was no point in drawing while in front of these beautiful landscapes. Verdier needed to get submerged by the spiritual and emotional experience of this landscape, and only then should she go back to her studio and recall that memory to really be able to express something in her painting. This 10-year study is told in her book Passagère du Silence, published in 2003, which I strongly recommend to read if you have the chance. It goes into much further detail about the various journeys she had to go through to get accepted as a true student of this millennial art form. Her painting practice began with a very heavy emphasis on calligraphy. Le Monde des Immortels, painted in 1993, has this beautiful cursive and flowing lettering, with a calligraphical representation of a mountain atop. This work is interesting to look back on when you see how her practice has developed, because certain elements of color choice, contrast, and brushstroke personality have certainly evolved but share a lot of similarities with this early work. Détachement intérieur, painted in 2000, shows a turning point in her work. This painting sees varnish being used, an element that will become prevalent as a textural finish to her works. Beautifully nuanced backgrounds, highly contrasted and saturated colors round out this painting to give it the signature Fabienne Verdier look while still keeping a gorgeous element of calligraphy. Résonance, inspired by de Kooning, is a monumental polyptych that sees the beginning of the use of one of the signature tools of Fabienne Verdier, gigantic horsehair brushes. These brushes, suspended from the ceiling, enable Fabienne Verdier to put the energy of her entire body into these large brushstrokes, creating a unique sense of kinetic energy that is directly translated onto the canvas. This work also showcases one of the concepts that is most important for Fabienne Verdier, the concept of resonance, where the artist applies calligraphic element of visualization and internalization, which is traditionally used on landscapes, to other mediums like music, architecture, and in this case, paintings. A series that I found to be a personal favorite is Cercle à 16, which sees Fabienne Verdier stand in the middle of the canvas and in one single stroke draw a circle on the canvas, marking the place of the artist and her movement onto it. The circle is one of the most important and difficult shapes associated with Chinese calligraphy, and which holds a deep meaning, symbolizing the beginning and end of all things and the place of human consciousness in the cosmos and the universe. In 2014, Fabienne Verdier was invited to be the first visual artist in residence at the prestigious Juilliard School of Performing Arts in New York. This would see her apply her concept of resonance to the realm of music. This led to a series like Vortex, which were inspired by the physical element of breath produced by opera singers. In 2017, for the French dictionary Le Petit Robert, this concept of resonance would be applied to words from the French language, creating 22 original works that were inspired by combinations of words, like the word force with the word form, deconstructing these complex associations into a concept of movement between the two words, and eventually, a thought unfolds by association. 2022 sees Fabienne Verdier invest the Musée Unterlinden in Colmar, a monumental exhibition that showcases more than 75 paintings made for the museum, all in resonance with one of the masterpieces the museum houses, Le Rétable d'Issenheim. These works mark a departure from the usual style of Fabienne Verdier, delving deep into the spirituality of life and death in a poetic association to astral beings. Le Chant des Étoiles is on show until March of 2023. If you get the chance, I would highly suggest to pay it a visit.